Hello, class. I received an email asking for some input on a logo that one of your fellow classmates is working on. And it's actually quite a nice logo. This is Julia Grimes' Reflections. I think that it's a great start, and I'll talk about a couple of things that she might want to do to make it better. On the other hand, she might not. This is just my thoughts on it, and she may have some personal feelings about these and not want to change them. So in the copy that I received, she gave me 2 copies on a black background, and I also received a copy on PSD, but something went a little strange with my copy. As you can see, I don't have these fonts, but for some reason, most likely that because it's not rasterized, it's creating this odd fill inside of it, which is upsetting. So we'll try to work around that. So before I get into my thoughts on her logo, let's talk about logos in general real quick. And I went ahead and Googled a couple of logos up for the Valve company. They produce video games and hardware, software services related to video games. And most notably, they created a program called Steam, which allows people to purchase video games, play video games online between friends, move the games that they've purchased on an account between different systems, and all that good stuff. So what I'm going to talk about actually appears in a book that I've had for a very long time. Apparently, it's now out of print. It's called Notes on Graphic Design and Visual Communication. This is by Greg Berryman. That's Greg with 2 G's in it. And it comes in a couple of different editions. I wouldn't buy it new because apparently it just doesn't exist anymore, but you can find them around. I've had several editions, so they've all seemed about the same to me, and they're literally like notes. They look handwritten. It's a fun little read. If you can snag it for like $20 or so, I'd say it's worth it. If it starts going over that, I don't know. Maybe see if a friend, wink wink, has it somewhere that they can check it out. Anyway. So Greg Berry breaks this down pretty easily, and the same stuff's on Wikipedia and quick Google search, but essentially it comes down to this. He categorizes these as symbols, pictographs, letter marks, logos, combination marks, and then you can trademark any of those. So what he was saying was that essentially a symbol is a mark that works without type and can be used to identify a corporation, an agency, or an institution. These can be legally protected, of course, and they're usually very simple things. So let's take a look at, in fact, the Steam logo. And whoops, we'll just pop that open in our fan view, or sorry, Irfan view. I keep forgetting it's a real person's name. So this just looks like a little device, right? A little dot. But let's roll back for a second and see what's going on. So if we pop out earlier on, you can see that we do in fact have the Valve company, and later we had the Steam, which came from Valve Steam. And the little shape that they have makes the shape of a V essentially going on. And that's where the idea was coming from. It sort of became more and more abstract. They said Valve, they took the V and they made a symbol out of it. And eventually they just had the Steam with the symbol. And now these days you can just find this image that doesn't want to open up on my computer. And so they just continue to abstract it, essentially. This is going on. So this is a case of a symbol. Now, that's pretty abstract. If you wanted something that's a little less abstract, you could have a letter mark, which is essentially letters only. And in fact, if you had Valve without this box, that's all that's going on here. But it's unique in the way that they've moved the E up, the way that they've shrunk it. And so even without this white box, it would be understandable from people who've played it before. So that would work out well. So letter marks are letters formed, letter forms, names and types used to identify a company. They're often shorter versions of long names that won't be pronounceable. So in that case, let's take a look at an IBM logo. And you can see that IBM, which is classic computer company, you can't say IBM, but you can say IBM. And sure enough, that would make it a letter mark. Now, if we were to look at Apple logo, you'll notice that they've had the apple. And about the same time IBM had all those colors, this is the Apple logo I remember from my childhood, so may have been around a while. This would be a symbol, an example of a symbol, essentially. Past that, we also have flat out logos, which would be the combination of pieces that all work together. So this is a bit weird. Sorry about that. My cat needed some attention, so I had to pause the video. He's not used to me recording at this time of night, and he didn't know if he could get away with some things, which he couldn't because I can pause my video. Anyway, if I might have, where was I? If it's out of color print, out of gamut, it won't be able to be represented inside of a CMYK system. So if you click here, you'll see the color that you'll actually get printed on most printers. This will vary according to the printer that you're using, but now this is in gamut. So this is the color, the printer safe for most printers. Now, some printers can go further than that, but if you're really going to be printing this all over the place, you might want it in gamut. Let me reset this. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click reset. Oh, sorry. Haha, I forgot that I didn't have the original color. There we go. And let's tell it okay. Now we have our color. Okay, so now if I were to click it, we can see where it will go. Slight difference. You may not see it on your system, but you can watch it jump from the original into the gamut. And we'll talk about this in color, what's going on there. This bottom box is for web safe color. I cannot seem to point. Here we go. This this bottom box is for web safe colors. Clicking on this will be all of the colors that are web safe. We can see that there aren't that many colors that are web safe. We check this box. So I would ignore web safe colors in this day and age and be more concerned about visibility. Now, a couple of things. Do be cautious about reds on black and grays on black for the same reason. If we turned this into a black and white image with just a quick adjustment layer and doing a standard black and white, we'll notice that this is a very dark gray, which means and that's true for most reds, there'll be some level of gray. Red looks so stunning on black. It's absolutely beautiful, but be very cautious about legibility of red on black, because if you have vision impairments, it's going to be hard to see. So go ahead and take that off. There's one other thing. It may be worthwhile to come in with this and set it up so that it is in black and white on these. And in fact, I've done exactly that, which I believe is, oh, not there. That's skipping ahead. Right here. Oh, no, we'll just do it real quick. Okay, so I have a layer of it on transparent. Let me go ahead and do an old school trick. Since this is a single PNG, I want this to fit right around the By Julia. These are all transparent pixels. I just had the background off on it. So I'm going to take the marquee tool, draw over it, hold down the Alt key, go up once, sorry, Control Z, get the move tool first, Alt key up once, down once. And that will nudge it. I didn't actually need to use the Alt key in this version of Photoshop now that I think back. So let me go over this one more time. Marquee, go over it. Make sure you get all of it. V for move. Just tap up to nudge, tap down to nudge right back. So that will just move it by the same number of pixels up and down. That means that I have a perfect fit now on this. So I'm just going to fill this with white so that we have a black and white version. And while I'm at it, let's go ahead and put the black background back on. Now I'm fine with the color, but I want to show you something else. Whoops, let's invert that to black. So currently we have it photography by Julia. So there's a reason that I'm doing this. I'll show it in a second, but there's one other thing that I would recommend doing. And that is on this, change how far down this is. So this is so far down that it becomes difficult to process it. It almost becomes a separate element the further away it becomes, the further away from the top part it goes. So if I just bring it in a little bit, you can see the difference between the two. I'm just going to keep clicking on that, aren't I? All right. Difference between the two. I would stick with a red for a lot of cases, but when you do that, be very careful about what red you use. And you may want to actually go into swatches and on the flyout menu, choose a Pantone set of swatches so that you can see very specific swatches that are available at most of your printers, and you can pick one and it will tell you exactly what that is. So this is a Pantone color P55-16U, which means that when you go to the printer, you can ask, do you print Pantone color P65-16U? And they'll tell you. And that will be the same Pantone color everywhere. And we'll talk more about that when we get into coloring an image later in the semester. So for now, I'm just going to make this change. I'm just going to have reflections. I'm going to have it by Julia and white. This means that the interesting bit, your eye will see the larger piece first, but the brighter part will be your stopping point and will hit on Julia. So again, though, I'm fine with red. I think that's good. I like the little ripple. I think that it might have looked good going a little further out so that it would take up a little more space. But again, experiment with that as you see fit. Let's take a look at a couple of other things, and this is what I wanted to get into. The reason to have a black and white version.